Welcome, everyone. This is a bit of a different episode. Instead of basically talking about 6 stories, we're basically going to spend the bulk of the show basically hearing one story, and it's a story that we both think that needs to get out there, and people need to learn more about this, and we need to have a conversation about this because it is a really important topic. And we just want to say before we start, if conversations about sexual assault or sexual violence are in any way an emotional trigger for you, go watch something else. Go watch, I don't know, SNL is on in...
So weak. Oh my God.
Yeah. So let's just go straight into it. So to our guest today, why don't you tell us the basics of what you can tell us? I know this case is still open, so you can't tell us everything, but what can you tell us about what happened to you?
I'm gonna just try to stick to the facts.
Okay.
Let's see. Unfortunately, the case that I'm discussing wasn't the first time that I experienced intimate partner violence or rape or domestic violence. And I think that there was some trauma reenactment, like in that situation. And what I learned from the situation is that predators, they have like this. Am I allowed to curse or no?
Like, yeah. Curse away.
Hell yeah.
So they have like a fucking antenna on their head that like seeks out their victims. You know, that's what abusers do. So it happened at a time in my life where I wasn't able to really identify it for what it was at first. It was not one of those things where I was walking down the street and somebody jumped out of the bushes and, attacked me. It was different than that. It was actually somebody that I was dating. But within that relationship, that person was pushing a lot of consent boundaries to begin with. And it was a really short relationship. And I'm even remiss to call it a relationship because I was essentially like a sort of a Stockholm syndrome type prisoner. And it was only 2.5 weeks of my life. It wasn't like a long time. But what was happening was that individual was forcing me to do things that I wasn't consenting to. And in retrospect, I do believe that he was drugging me as well. And he was definitely filling me up with all sorts of alcohol. And I could never see when he was making my drinks. So this actually went on for a few weeks. I was really confused because I kept saying, no, don't do that. And he kept doing it. And I was afraid to speak up because in my past, I knew that if I spoke up, that I was going to get beat, that I was going to get hurt, that I was not going to be listened to. It was what I expected, like out of relationships, I suppose, at that point in my life. So I didn't really recognize it immediately for what it was, which was actual brutal rape. I'll even go as far as to say that it was even to the point where for him, I think power and control was a kink, something that he really got off on. And the fact that I wasn't consenting made him more excited. He was a sick fuck. So anyway, in my mind, I'm a strong woman. My background is, even though I've experienced abuse in my life, I'm also known for not putting up with shit. Like, I do know who I am as an individual. And by the time he had gotten to me, I was no spring chicken. So I decided one day he was going to come over. And I wasn't feeling well. I was like depressed. I had just moved. I was really poor. I was a single mom. He kept telling me that he was going to take care of me and my son financially. And he had gotten to me at a point in my life where I was homeless. So at one point in my mind, I realized what he was doing, which was he was raping me with a promise of putting a roof over my kid's head. The amount of manipulation and coercion is just unbelievable. So basically, one day, 2.5 weeks after knowing him, he's, oh, blah, 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 I'm going to come over. And I say to him over the phone, okay, but when you come over, there's no sexy time happening, okay, dude? Like, this isn't going to happen today. I don't want it to happen. I don't feel well. But if you want to come over and chill, sure, we can do that. And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And well, that's not what happened. My clothes were off in a hot second. I didn't even have time to protest. It was like a fucking given that he was going to do it. It was a given. But the thing was that while it occurred, something snapped in my brain. I first froze. I shut down because for the first time in those 2.5 weeks, while the attack was happening, I was not under the influence of anything. I had woken up in my own home, sober, like completely myself, not feeling well. I was completely in my body. So it clicked what was actually happening to me, and I froze. And what broke me from freezing, and this is the part where the huge content warning, was he flipped me over because I had been on my back. And when he flipped me over, I knew what he was going for, which was always the boundary that he crossed. Always the no, don't do that. Well, he did it anyway and it hurt. So I clocked him in the jaw with my elbow, like as hard as I could. And the thing was that it wasn't just, oh, I'm going to coerce you into having sex. I'm going to force you to do this because it's fun for me. It was beyond that. It was more, I'm going to be a sadistic fuck and make sure that you tell me that you like it and you have to pretend to enjoy it or I'm going to hurt you. That's the type of thing that it was. So I like wailed him as hard as I could in the face and I got away from him and essentially just got him out of my apartment, chased him out like a banshee screaming, ran into the shower, did not turn on the shower, just used it as a place to hide and feel safe. And actually taking a shower is really hard for me for 4 years after that. But so anyway, I had to go pick my 13-year-old son up from school immediately after that. And I called the local hotline for mental health because I was experiencing mental health issues at the time. So that was like the go-to. And a gentleman picked up the phone and I told him I needed help and I told him what happened to me. And he told me I had to call the police. And I said I couldn't do that. I was scared. If I did that this guy was going to hurt me. He was going to kill me. And I had to go pick my son up from school in 10 minutes. So could you call the cops for me? And he was like, no. So I hung up the phone and I got dressed and I picked my child up from school. And I think I actually told my child on the way home what happened to me because I felt like I had to explain why my son was not seeing this person around me anymore. And then my child told me to call my best friend. And my best friend and I have been through a lot together, including domestic violence that's how we met was in a support group. So my son at the age of 13 was like, Mom, just call her. She'll know what to do. She'll know how to help us. Oh my God, he's such a love. He's such a superhero. I love him. But anyway, this doesn't get me talking about my son. But at any rate,
I mean, to be fair, I met your son. He's really nice.
you did. That's right. Oh my God, Raphael. He probably will. He's not around right now, but when I see him, like when he comes back home,
Tell him I say hi.
I will. He's totally gonna remember you. He's gonna be really happy that I'm doing this. He's gonna be psyched. So at any rate, like she came over and she couldn't convince me to press charges right away because I was just terrified. I called the rape hotline and everyone convinced me to at least go get a kit done. So the next morning I went to the local hospital and I got the kit done. Man, they managed to really fuck it up, by the way. They really fucked that up. I mean, it's not like sitting in a box collecting dust somewhere, but it in no way reflects my experience of the past few weeks of being repeatedly like raped from behind. Like, no way. There's no way that kit is accurate. That's kind of an aside, but I feel like if I didn't say it at that point, I would forget to say it. And I feel like it's important.
It is, yeah. I don't think kids can show what you've experienced as a human person. Like it doesn't, yeah. No, you're right.
No, it's not just that. Like literally, they said that there wasn't lesions and things where there damn well were. And even to the point where remember I told you guys that I busted him in the face with my elbow? At any rate, like, the kit didn't, like, literally didn't reflect physically what I went through, like, at all. And that's important. It's important because the whole thing has been completely, like, shot to shit and mishandled from the start. So I kind of started to fall apart. Like I fell apart, like I wound up going to a therapist and the therapist being like, look, you need help. You can't go on like this. So I was put into recovery. Not recovery for drugs and alcohol, because that wasn't really what the issue was. The issue is that I had like untreated PTSD and I needed help. So I was put into a mental health recovery program. And on my first day there, 2 important things happened in my life that changed the course of my destiny. The first thing that happened is I met my current husband, who I was a little shell of myself that day. And as much as a raging feminist as I am, I will say straight up, I can't live without that man. He has helped me through this experience and been my rock. And it was literally like not even a month after I was raped that I met him in recovery, and he put me back together like a broken, like an egg that fell on the floor, and he just like pieced me back together. And, I know my hard work also was the reason why I got strong and started fighting. So that was the first thing that happened my first day of recovery. And the second thing that happened was I came home and I decided to press charges. It was actually roughly 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks after the rape. So I'm not really going to say much about that, except for the fact that a male officer showed up and I looked at him like he had 5 heads. You're here for a rape. Like, why are you male? What are you doing here? Get a female. And, they took my account. I was interviewed by, I was getting the feeling that I was being asked the same questions by different people, like I was on fucking trial or something, when I was trying to tell them the reason why I'm doing this is because this guy's married. He has a wife. I met his wife like way back months ago, just one time in passing. And then I heard that they were back together. That was another reason why I wanted to pursue charges. And I distinctly remember telling them my story and saying like that it only happened once, because I couldn't come to terms with the fact that at that point that it had happened numerous times. My brain couldn't wrap, like, I couldn't. And the thing was that I knew for damn sure that I could press charges against him for just once, which was the last time. I had a bruise on my elbow that probably matched the bruise on his jaw. The people at the rape kit took a picture. I mean, guys, why wouldn't they believe me, right? Why wouldn't they fucking believe me? But no, I was the one that was put on trial. And by the way, oh wait, I can't, never mind. I have to remember, I have to be careful what I say, because I was gonna be like, insert blah, 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 and then I was like, no. But what I'm saying is that, like, from the moment I pressed charges, it was an uphill battle to speak my truth and not be blamed. The next thing that came out was that when they went to interview him, he showed them texts on his phone that I had allegedly sent him, giving him consent to have sex with me that day, or asking him to do like dirty things to me. And to be honest with you, I don't remember sending those texts at all. Like I said, though, I was drunk, I was drugged. Who knows what he was doing with my phone? So they automatically assume that because this motherfucker has some texts on his phone that I'm lying. Like, it was open, shut. He said, she said, bam, done, boom, over. She doesn't matter. I guess it didn't happen, but we'll just let this fucking rapist run around the county terrorizing women. So I fell into kind of the depths of despair after that, and I let it go for a little while. I had to pull myself together. I had to focus on being a mom. But through recovery, I learned that the type of person that I am and the way that I am in my career as well is I fight and I fight and I fight. Not just for myself, but for, you know, the people that I take care of. And I don't give up. And I'm not going to betray myself. So after a few months, I decided that I would be remiss to not protect his family, his daughter and his wife, and his wife's daughter or whatever, right? So I went to the DA of my county and I wrote everything down that happened to me. And she threw her hands in the air and said there was nothing that she could do, but that he was on her radar. And I said, that's not enough because he's going to hurt someone or possibly maybe even kill someone. Like, he's crazy. He's a masochist. I had witnesses from the local advocacy center with me during that meeting with the DA, by the way. So that's one thing I did. I also spoke to the head investigator of the state police near me, the boss of the person who shut the case. And I brought my friend, my best friend, as a witness for that. And she asked me why women in my county weren't more careful. So I told her that it was her job to get the rapists off the street and that it's not our job to be more careful. It's her job to do her job and stop letting rapists run around the county, raping people. So then some more time goes by. So we're getting into a couple years, 2 years after what happened to me, right? And one night, my husband and my son approach me and they tell me that they've got some news that I'm not going to take very well. And it turns out that the rapist's wife is dead of a drug overdose. And I knew fucking damn well that that woman did not die. I fucking knew she didn't die of a drug overdose. I mean, she did die of a drug overdose, but I don't think she overdosed herself. As a matter of fact, I pretty much know. So, and I'm saying that, like, you know, you can say something as presented as a fact based on the evidence that you've gathered, you know, whether it's circumstances and hard evidence. I'm saying I'm concluding that he murdered her based on those things. I'm not going to lightly throw around that word unless I myself, as an educated person, sees all of the evidence that I have in front of me to draw a conclusion. And I have drawn the conclusion that he killed her and that he overdosed her on drugs. So my husband and my poor son at this point, they dropped this bomb on me. This woman is dead. And like, to my knowledge, he killed her. So the first thing I do is I have to find out for sure what happened. So I reach out to her family. And it doesn't really take them very long on social media to get back to me. And the first thing they asked me was, so what did he do to you? And I was like, well, I told them what he did to me. And they said, well, he murdered, our sister's daughter, And they told me the whole story of how she died of the overdose and that she had enough of the drug in her to kill her several times. There's no way she even could have overdosed herself. And any hard evidence had been disposed of. The can where she had drank it out of had actually, it's no longer in existence. Any evidence that was entered when the police investigated, they have the evidence and they just closed the case. So basically, after I found out about her death, I kind of went apeshit ballistic politically. I was like, oh, really? Oh, really? So they called me a liar. I warned them that someone was going to die. Someone did die. And now there's still nothing being done about it. And I live a few minutes down the road from this fuck. Like, I'm like, are they obviously, either there's something going on behind the scenes that I don't know about, corruption, obviously, or it's just they're dumb. I couldn't understand. I couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that this person with the criminal record that he has for sexual assault going back to the 90s, where he actually admits on a report that I have in my possession that he sodomized a 17-year-old girl. So like, he has a history of doing this for years. My husband and I researched his ass for so long, and we got so much old shit on him, and he's a serial fucking rapist, and now he's a murderer, and the cops were just like, oh, well, she must be lying. So it's basically the only way that I could actually get something done was to reopen my case. Because I went to the legislature of the county, a lot of people, told my truth, told my story, demanded that they implement trauma-informed law enforcement, asked them what the budget was for that. I went political. I spoke to some legislators and representatives in my area, and everyone pacified me. Oh yeah, we'll help you. Oh, we care so much about your story. No one cared and no one listened. Raphael is the only one that actually took the initiative to reach out to me and do something about it. And now we're at this point where he's still free, and I have reopened the investigation. And because that investigation is currently open, I can't really talk any further about what the police are doing right now. But what I'm going to say is, yes, he's still free. He is now married to the daughter of the woman that he killed, and she is pregnant. Oh my God, Skye, your poor face, honey. Oh my God, honey, your face, Skye. Do you see her face?
Yeah, she has so many follow-up questions, and so do I. This is why we wanted to have you on the show, because this is an insane story. It's absolutely insane. Like, if you wrote a movie, it couldn't be this insane.
No.
It's like a trilogy.
Yeah, it's got a few sequels.
Now, this is where, like, the case is still open. I'm being led around by the police still. Oh, we're doing something. I was told that last week he would be told that he's being investigated. Can you imagine the impact that that's going to have on my anxiety level, him knowing that I'm his worst nightmare right now? Because me doing this is going to open up a can of worms about his ex-wife, obviously. So there's no regard for my family's safety, for my safety, for my child, my minor child's safety, they give no shits. And I have an investigator that I think maybe is a good dude. He seems and appears to be trying, and I have a relationship with him where I can tell him like it is, and he listens, but I honestly do feel like he's still yesing me to death. Like, to the point where I've said to him, you don't understand it. Helps me with my trauma for you to keep me abreast of what's going on so I can be a good witness. And speaking of which, and I'm not going to say who it is, I now have a witness to one of the attacks. A very credible witness has come forward for me.
An attack on you or on one of his other victims?
On me. This person walked into the house while I was being attacked and heard everything. I didn't know this. This person comes forward. Oh, what am I suddenly credible now? Am I suddenly not a goddamn liar now? You know, so I'll leave it at that, where right now I'm literally just left hanging. I had to move and relocate. I mean, there was a lot of reasons why. I was living in a crappy place anyway, but like, since I've relocated, I feel different. I feel better because I know that person hopefully doesn't know where I live, whereas they did before. So it's been a nightmare for several years now. And even though the case is like where it is, you giving me this opportunity, it's sort of something had to give. Look, at this time in history, at this time in society, I watched that fucking debate last night, okay? So, like, I'm just saying, at this time in history, this is not the time to dilly-dally with this shit. There is no time to waste anymore when it comes to the rights of women. There's none. So you know what? If they want to drag their fucking feet for so many fucking years, then I'm taking it into my own hands and I'm going to have my voice be heard and people are going to hear my story. And if they turn around and they say, oh, well, you screwed up this, and that investigation, I'm going to say, should have worked faster because someone fucking died on your watch. And someone else is going to die on their watch if they don't wake the fuck up now. And I have emails to prove that I've been telling them this for a very long time. And now I'm done. Oh, that was quite the denouement there, I'm telling you, Jesus.
Okay, so that was an emotional roller coaster.
Sorry, guys.
It's fine. We had you on here for a reason. Skye, do you want to start us off? Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I have questions. I don't know, like, can I ask when this case was first opened? Like, what year?
2016.
Okay, and then can I ask how long it's been reopened now that you reopened it?
Like
Is that
8 months maybe?
wow?
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, and then one more. How long? So when it was first opened in 2016, how long did it take for them to like close it or whatever? Do you remember?
Not even 3 months. Literal fucking open shut. He said, she said, done.
Wow. And I have something to say about that too. They said that because you sent those text messages previously that it was okay that it happened. Like, you can change your mind. You can say no and then it'd still be not okay because you said, like, that's so dumb. That's so fucking stupid. That just made me mad.
It's
Like,
gaslighting.
that just...
It's gaslighting. That's what it is. They wanted me to believe that I had done something wrong so I would shut my mouth so that they wouldn't have to do their fucking jobs and go against the grain. Exactly what it is. And the thing is that they didn't expect me to turn around and be like, no, like, just give me a 6 months of R and some love and I'm back on my feet ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, I had another question. Oh, the people who are on your case now, are they the same people who worked your case first?
The supervisor is the same. The investigator is different. But what was really satisfying was when I went to repress the charges with the new investigator, they had the old investigator that opened and shut the case present at that meeting. And I felt validated by that. I was like, oh, so are they showing him how he like fucked it up now?
Okay. Okay. Interesting. And then one more question has nothing to do with your case, and I'll pass it on to Raphael. Well, I mean, you said he's married to the daughter?
Yeah.
Was she a child? Like,
No, she's in her 30s.
oh, so the woman was old.
Yeah, he's like, so his late wife was a few years older than him, and he's like in his like, I guess he's about 50 now. So yeah, he's an older like person. Years older than him. So her daughter, his stepdaughter, is now his wife and about to have his baby.
That's still really
She's
weird.
being repeatedly raped, obviously, because that's his MO. So she's got a literal baby in her belly, and the cops are like, they know this, and they're like, dur.
That's upsetting.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting. It's very upsetting for my family, for my husband.
I just wanted to say before I move on to my questions, you were so brave. You are so incredibly brave.
Yes.
It's genuinely insane. And one thing that I wanted to ask you is, you said that you told your son about this. Did him being aware that this happened to you change your relationship with him at all?
Oh yeah. In a balance of both negative and positive ways. It in a negative way, like it forced him to grow up really fast and be put in a position where he was taking care of me when I'm his mother and I'm supposed to be taking care of him. And I don't mean like in a neglectful way, I just mean in an emotional way. And like, my son was always, look, my mental health took a giant spiral and I was hospitalized for it several times after this rape. So my son had to, and my family, but particularly my child, had to endure the backlash of my illness, my PTSD that's a result of this. So it has not been great for our relationship in that way. Conversely, my son understands consent. My son and I talk openly about relationships with girls and women and sex, and we like he tells me that he always asks every step of the way when he's like getting busy. And I think that this experience has taught him how to be an ally to women, and it's unfortunate that it happened this way. And the other thing is that like he'll get angry at me if I talk about it. So I have to be really like he went to the police when I repressed charges and came forward as a witness and told them everything he knew. So, because I figured if my son comes forward and he just said he would do it, Mom, do you want me to come with you and say what I know? And he did it. That put a lot of credibility on me in the eyes of the police, because who would do that? You know what I mean? If it wasn't true that I was raped, right? So there was that. And it's just sometimes I think that I get obsessive about it, and it bothers my son because I'm not getting my justice and I'm just like fighting so hard, and I think he's just exhausted by it. But at the same time, it's brought us closer together. It taught him how to be a fighter and how to be a survivor and how to stand up when something is wrong and not give up.
That's really inspiring. Do you think, like, do you think that in a way that the reason why you haven't been taken seriously, do you, like, how much do you think that your gender has played into that?
All of it.
Thought so.
And
Me too.
every 1,000% of it. Yeah.
Do you think that because, like, you hear a lot of, like, the counter arguments, right? That, like, oh, men are raped more than women, or, like, do you think that if you had been a man, that your story would have been taken more seriously, or would there be justice already? Do you think that would be the case?
Yeah. And I will even take it a step further. Not only would I have been believed immediately, but to take it a step further in history, if you look back in history, like the whole thing with the Catholic Church, everybody was so disgusted because priests were touching, wait for it, are you ready? Little
Tell it.
boys. Little boys. Were they pissed that priests were touching and raping little girls? No. But when boys came forward, oh, suddenly now let's look into the priests.
That's such a good point. That's such
So yeah,
a good
it has
point.
everything to do with gender. And then the other thing too is that when a man comes forward and says, I was abused, I would believe it's a lot more difficult for a man because society puts expectations on men to be that alpha, to be strong, to not be a victim, right? So that just plays into it. That just makes it harder for any victim or survivor of sexual violence, whether you're a male or a female. The inequality of it makes it harder for men.
Yeah. Do you, like, if there are any people listening or watching that maybe are having a similar experience right now, or, like, have gone through something and are wondering whether or not to go public with it or go through the justice system, what would you say to those people?
I would say that what happens to them belongs solely to them. It's theirs. It's dirty and ugly and horrible and depressing, but you know what? It's still yours. So you do with it what you want, and you don't let anybody tell you what you have to do with it. I cannot impress that enough. Because unless someone has been through that specific trauma that you've been through, no one can tell you, oh, you should go press charges now. Sometimes pressing charges is the most dangerous thing you can do, especially if you're in a relationship and you're about to leave. You know, you have to be strategic. You have to really think if you're going to go public or you're going to press charges or go through the justice system. I am not discouraging it. I'm saying that you have to go in there with your eyes open, knowing the adversity that you're going to face, especially if you're female, especially if you're a woman. And I think that if someone is considering pressing charges, there's a whole list of things that you need to consider before you go in for that initial interview. Don't go alone. A witness is really important. Know who your investigator is. And also, more important than pressing charges and more important than anything in terms of going public, or even more important than getting justice, is finding other people that have been through what you've been through. Like, I have a Facebook group that I admin for survivors. So, like, we're a really tight-knit group of people, and like that's how I handle my trauma, and that's what gives me the strength to go forward with the justice system, is having my people that get it. Before you decide to go forward with any big decisions pertaining what happened to you, you must have that support system in place. You can't do it alone. And I'm not saying that someone has to have like husband of the year like I do, but I'm just saying like you have to have like an online support system or family or friends, but it's nothing that I think is a safe, literally or figuratively, emotionally safe thing to do, to bring up charges or go public alone. But then on the other side of it, once someone does come to the decision that they're going to do what I did, it is really empowering. And I went through a literal like spiritual transformation in the middle of this fight, where I just basically stopped giving fucks about what people thought of me. And that turned everything around. But biggest thing, your story is your story. Your life is your life. You do what you want with it.
Are there any organizations or charities that you want to shout out? Like we can put them in the description of the episode, or is there any organization like that you want to give a shout out to?
Actually, yeah. This is actually a mental health organization. People Incorporated. I would love to give them a shout out. I know they're really hurting right now. It's a peer run like mental health services where there's a hotline and there's respite houses. That's an alternative to like hospitalization. And like where I live right now, it's really bad in terms of mental health. There's like not a lot of places that people can go. And one of the People Incorporated houses, People Inc., I believe is nationwide, has shut down due to the pandemic, not because of quarantine, but because they're so short staffed, and they really they could use the support. And in terms of I mean, like the thing is I have so many, but I'm afraid that I will reveal where I live. You know, like I'll reveal my identity of like where I live if I tell you, but I can shoot you a message and let you know.
Yeah.
Well, okay, how did you find you find those resources so people who aren't where you live can find those resources for themselves?
RAINN, the National RAINN, the National Network for Domestic Violence. And then there is, I always just call my local one, so that's why I'm like, there's a number. Oh wait, hold on. I have an idea. So on my support group, we actually listed all of the worldwide numbers for these things for our members.
Nice.
I actually can tell you specifically if you just give me a second.
Yeah.
RAINN. It's called RAINN. That's the one that I'm going to shout out because that's the network that if you call their number, it will guide you and direct you to whatever is in your local area and what services there can help you in terms of counseling and advocacy. But I do know People Incorporated. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Skye.
Sorry, you said RAIAN.
No. RAINN. It's called network, but I'm just double checking and I don't. Oh, here we go. Thank you. It's RAINN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization, and they're awesome. And they have a whole list of hotlines, and it's www.rainn.org. So it's like the word rain with an extra rain. Extra rain, jeez. The word rain. I can't do this right. The word rain with an extra N at the end.
So what's next for you? what are the next steps in this? Not just like the judicial process of trying to get justice, but in your emotional journey and your, like you said, a spiritual journey. What's next for you?
Couple of things. I've decided to go back to my profession. I missed it, you know, and I think that during this time, kids really need a lot of support, and the universe always pulls me towards working with children. And the other thing is that the support group that I have online is what's next. You know, it's like we have a lot of things going on that can help survivors right now. And I am going to put this out there now, is I'm putting together an anthology written by only survivors of either domestic violence or sexual assault. And it's art, poetry, prose, photography, anything anybody does to cope. And I'm compiling it together. I've got some submissions, and my plan is to make it into a publication, and give us an artistic voice. And some people that are sending me submissions are sending poetry. Some people are like directly telling their stories, what happened to them. Some people want to stay anonymous. Some people don't. I've got someone in jail sending me their art. Like, we've just got a whole bunch of different survivors of all identifying genders, would be my hope. And that's what's next, is continuing advocacy work in a way that's healing me and feeding my spirit, so that this doesn't fucking happen to anybody else. You know, and I'll always say it, like, I'll fight it till the day I die, and then I'll fight after I'm dead too. So that's what's next. I'm just gonna keep up the fight as much as I can.
That's phenomenal, and we wish you good luck.
Thank you for
Any
hearing
final
me.
thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
It felt really good to talk about this. It was hard, but it felt good.
Do you have any final thoughts, Skye?
No, but just thank you. Like, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for reopening your case. Like, thank you for fighting. Thank you for being a fighter and helping others through it as you do it. It's amazing.
And both of you, thank you, because I have a sneaking suspicion that both of you are fighters as well. And, you know, I get that sense. I mean, why else would you be? You know, this is why we're here right now, is to make things fucking right. And there's no time like the present.
Yeah,
Amen.
couldn't agree more. That being said, that does it for us this week. We will be back in 2 weeks, and we will see you all then.
All right. Bye, guys. Take care. God bless everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.